SportsOnTapPodcast.com, the place to go where you can listen to past shows, read featured articles, check out all of our social media updates, plus much, much more. SportsOnTapPodcast.com, the official website of Sports on Tap.
For up-to-the-minute info on local high school sports action, including photos, videos, and live updates, be sure to follow Sports on Tap on Twitter, Instagram, and like us on Facebook.
Why do you exercise? To look better? To feel better? To drop a few pounds? To train for an event? To defy age? Or to keep your ability to say yes to the things you love to do? Whatever motivates you, G&G Fitness Equipment is here to get you there. Treadmills, ellipticals, rollers, bikes, home gyms, and accessories. We'll pair you with the right equipment, teach you how to use it, and be there every step of your fitness journey. G&G Fitness. Your goal is our goal.
RRT Productions, specializing in creating sports recruiting videos for all high school athletes. Want to play at the next level? Promote your talents with a video to send colleges. Affordable, experienced, and a high-quality video. Make us your local video production company. Visit our website, rrt-productions.com, and contact us today. RRT Productions, we shoot, we edit, you win.
The voice of the Cleveland Monsters, Tony Brown, and you're listening to Sports on Tap.
You're listening to Sports on Tap, presented by RRT Productions. Here are your hosts, Rob Troutman, Josh Jeffy, Ed Dick, and Sean Duffy.
And welcome to Sports on Tap. I'm your host, Rob Trauma. We have Sean Duffy, Ed Dick, Josh Jeffy here in Studio J. It's our Week 4 game recaps for our Ohio high school football coverage here today. And, guys, Week 4 now in the books, and a lot to cover here today. Later on, we're going to get to our game of the week that featured Wadsworth and Hudson, and I'll tell you, that was an unbelievable game that came down to a final kick that even Ed Dick would be proud of.
It was
late in the game.
Top 2 games we've covered since we started covering games.
Wow, pretty bold statement.
In the top 2.
The
top 2, it was close.
There's no doubt. Yeah, it's a top. There's no doubt it was a top game, and we'll go over our Coach of the Week poll that we had. The final results are in there, so we'll go through that later on in the show. We also have our Player of the Week we'll give during each segment here going forward. But first, right on the RRT Productions hotline is our favorite Ed Dick. He's part of the show, and he's covering the Great Lakes Conference. Ed, thanks for joining us again this week.
We are regular season. Hard to believe that we've been building up to this for all summer long, and now we're just about halfway to the half point of the regular season. So without further ado, in the Great Lakes Conference, Week 4 started off with a Thursday matchup between the winless Normandy Invaders and Garfield Heights over at Byers Field. The Bulldogs, they wasted no time. They jumped to a 45-0 lead at the end of the first half. The Bulldogs win 51-0 over Normandy. For the Bulldogs, Torrance Davis passed for 2 touchdowns and ran for 2 touchdowns to lead the way for the Bulldogs. Normandy falls to 0-4 overall. They're 0-2 in the conference. They will travel to Rocky River in Week 5. Garfield Heights is 2-2. They will host Maple Heights in Week 5. A couple of big matchups here in the GLC. First, the Bay Rockets came into this game 2-1 overall, 1-1 in the conference. They hosted undefeated Parma Heights Valley Forge in a big matchup for GLC supremacy. The Patriots got on the board with touchdown runs of 55 and 6 yards by Anthony. They answered for touchdowns by Hudson Cisneros and Nick Patari to take a 15-12 lead. Valley Forge retook the lead in the 19-15 with a 5-yard run by Trell Marks. Bay's Joe Coletti scored from 18 yards out, and the Rockets retook the lead 22-19. Dave Anderson then intercepted a Patriots pass late in the game, sealing the victory for the Rockets, 22-19. For Bay, Nick Pateri, he rushed 11 times for 93 yards and a touchdown. Joe Coletti rushed 5 times for 74 yards and a touchdown. Valley Forge, as a team, with that wing-T offense they run, they rushed for 365 yards, led by Mike Pappas' 20 carries for 112 yards, and Antoine Torres' 7 carries for 86 yards and 2 touchdowns. Bay and Valley Forge are both 3-1 overall, 2-1 in the GLC. Patriots, speaking of Buckeye, and one of the other big matchups this week, the Elyria Catholic, 2-1 overall, 1-1 in the conference. They traveled to York Township to take on the Buckeye Bucks, 2-1 overall, 1-0 in the conference. Another matchup for the top spot in the GLC. The Panthers, they wasted 0 time. They scored in the opening kickoff, a 72-yard jaunt by Levi Ellis. Buckeye, they answered with their own special teams touchdown, a 61-yard punt return by Cayman Marshall. The rest of the game is a battle between the arm of Panthers quarterback Steven Navalinsky and Bucks quarterback Jacob Durkee. Navalinsky, he finished 14 of 31 passing for 246 yards and 3 touchdowns in this back-and-forth affair. He hit Jack Griffin for 6 receptions, 101 yards and a touchdown. And then Jarrett France had 4 receptions for 96 yards and a touchdown. Navalinsky hit 6 different receivers over the course of the night. However, Durkee got the last laugh. He rushed 36 times for 284 yards, 4 touchdowns, and a 2-point conversion. His last touchdown provided just enough cushion for a 36-32 victory over the Panthers.
Wow, what
Panthers,
a game.
No kidding. This was the epitome of a back-and-forth affair. The other team back down. Buckeye was able to battle lead in the fourth quarter, and they were able to ride that out. The Panthers, the 2-2 overall. They are 1-2 in the GLC. They're going to finish their non-conference schedule next week against Padua. Buckeye is 3-1 overall. They are 2-0 in the GLC. Next week comes another stiff test. They travel to Byers Field to take on Valley Forge. Not to be forgotten as far as the GLC is concerned, Parma Heights Holy Name, 2-1 overall, 1-0 in the conference. They hosted Rocky River at North Royalton Serpentine Field. The Green Wave took a 14-13 lead in the into the half, on 2 rushing touchdowns by Trevor Dotson. The touchdown run by Robert Sherritt then put Holy Name up 21-13. That lead got erased by a touchdown pass from Braden Speaks to Christian Dean for the Pirates to tie that game over 21. However, the Green Wave put up 22 unanswered points to the Pirates. They go on to a 43-21 victory. The Green Wave, they improved their record to 3-0 overall. They are 2-0 in the GLC. They will be hosting Parma in week 5. Rocky River is 2-2 overall, 1-2 in the conference. They will host Normandy. Lastly, Fairview, 1-2 overall, 0-2 in the conference, looking for their first win in the conference play. Traveled to Byers Field to take on, they were 1-2 in conference play. My bad, 1-1 in conference play. You need to get that right. They were 1-1 in conference play. They traveled to Byers Field to take on Parma. They have the 1-2 and 0-2 record in conference play. This is a great game, and it came down to the end. A 15-yard touchdown run by Ian McClintock with under 2 minutes left provided the final push in. Fairview, the Warriors beat the Parma Redmond 35-28. McClintock rushed for 2 total touchdowns. Declan Jewett threw an 80-yard touchdown pass to Mari Raher. Jewett also rushed for 2 touchdowns. One of the big keys in the play was a 15-yard pass for a first down on a 15-yard pass to Jewett to Raher. with 4 minutes left in the Parma 10-yard line to help them get to that final score. And the Warriors improved to 2-2 overall, 1-2-1 in the conference. They will travel to Bay in week 5. Parma is 1-3 overall. They're 0-3 in the conference. They will travel to Holy Name in week 5. Our coach of the week for the GLC is Greg Dennison from Buckeye. Big victory. Their first 2 conference games were against the 2018 co-champions of the GLC, and Buckeye has defeated them both in their first 2 games in conference play. So congratulations to Greg Dennison, the Buckeye Bucks. It doesn't get any easier for them with that matchup against Valley Forge coming up next week. If I'm Buckeye, I would equate this matchup to their battles with Black River, Sullivan Black River, their old PAC foe. Black River also runs a triple option. They don't pass very often. I think the major difference that you're going to see here between Valley Forge and Black River is just the size of the school. There are going to be more players for Valley Forge, and we'll see about their size. I saw Valley Forge close and personal last year when Brunswick played them, and they're pretty big. And so we'll see if Buckeye will be able to handle that going into week 5. So congratulations again to Coach Greg Dennison, the player of the week, also from Buckeye. Chocolate milk's all around for this guy. Jacob Jergy, quarterback from Buckeye, 284 yards rushing. He had 4 touchdowns and a 2-point conversion. He scored 26 points out of the 36 scored by Buckeye that game. Jacob Jergy, congratulations, player of the week for the GLC.
Yeah, nice job, Ed. And, in the GLC, a lot of really good games. I was intrigued by that game with Buckeye and Elyria Catholic because Elyria Catholic always one of the top teams in the GLC along with Bay. And, Buckeye really handed Bay a big-time loss, and they got a big win. They dominated, which I was a little surprised about. So I wondered how Elyria Catholic would go into Buckeye and play. And, that was a very physical, tough game, it seemed like. And, Buckeye gets another big win, and it's not going to get easier. I think this conference is really going to be a physical, tough conference to play in with some of these teams.
Yeah, I agree 100%, Rob. I think what I'm starting to see here, I'm looking at the standings that are right in front of me. For right now, out of the 9 teams in the conference, 5 of them have 2 wins in conference play. With that where it's worked, where at least one team is going to be playing a non-conference game every week. I don't have enough experience in this conference yet to make a comparison. But I think where I think this conference can go is exactly where your conference is at right now, Rob, in the Southwestern Conference, where you're going to see a lot of these teams probably beating each other. Where in your conference, you have Avon and Midview. Once they got in there, they've done pretty well for themselves. Avon Lakes obviously have had a lot of success in that conference as well. But top to bottom, that mid-range between the very, very top and the very, very bottom, you have a lot of tough football going on there. And I'm thinking that's what the comparable is going to be to the Great Lakes Conference is that Southwestern Conference, especially the amount of teams in there. Everyone is playing there's a conference game pretty much every, starting with week 2. So we'll see if a team can separate themselves. Right now, Buckeye and Holy Name are undefeated in conference play. Buckeye, they do have a very tough test with Valley Forge coming up, and then Holy Name again will be taking on Parma. There's 4 Parma schools in this conference that we talked about in the past, so you're gonna have a lot of rivalry games pretty much every week between the Parma schools, and you can never count. I don't think the records really matter when the teams like Parma and Normandy are playing Valley Forge and Holy Name. Those are going to be wars. It doesn't matter what the records are. So there's no such thing as an easy game in this schedule, as far as at least right now, from what I can tell. I mean, unfortunately, Normandy 0-4. they're not having a whole lot of success, but that can turn around in no time.
Yep.
So I'm looking forward to seeing how this conference is going to shake out. A couple big games this week. I mean, Buckeye Valley Forge right now is I would consider that my preliminary game of the week as far as where the what's at stake in just the level of where they're at from Rutgers' perspective.
Yeah, absolutely, Ed. Well, great job on the Great Lakes Conference, and any last thoughts on the Great Lakes Conference or anything else?
Great Lakes Conference, great time. It's been a great time to cover so far.
Absolutely.
So those of you who are supporting, so those of you that obviously, we've been with Buckeyes for a couple of years, but those of you who support the Pharma schools and some of the West Side schools like Bay, Fairview, Rocky River, Elyria Catholic, continue listening because I will do my best to make sure that you guys get the proper attention that you deserve that we can offer here. And obviously there's quite a game that occurred, and that's what's on Tap Game of the Week. That was a fantastic game, an awesome game. As Sean said, probably one of the best ones we've had in the years of covering live games. But I'm sure I know Josh will be going over this soon, but it was a very, very, very good game between Brunswick and Solon. It's one of the more hard-hitting games I've seen out of a Brunswick team in the last couple of years. Very physical, very, very physical. But I'll leave that to Josh to talk about here shortly.
All right, Ed. Well, great job. Appreciate you coming on again like you do every Monday night at this time to cover the Great Lakes Conference. And job well done, and we'll be excited to talk to you next week.
Sounds good, guys. Have a great rest of the show. And make sure you vote for our Player of the Week on Twitter coming up here, folks. The more interest we get, the more recognition that these players get. So it's all about the players. We want to make sure that they get recognized. So continue to check out our Twitter feed and make that happen.
All right. Great job, Ed. Have a good night, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Jess.
All right, that's our own Ed Dick. He covers the Great Lakes Conference. And, again, if you want to vote for our Players of the Week or Coach of the Week, go to our Twitter page at SOT Podcast and go to our website, sportsontappodcast.com, where we have great write-ups. We have photos on there, pictures, video. We also do the voting, too. You could get all the information about our podcast right there on our website.
Yeah, when it comes to our Coach of the Week poll, that comes out on Saturday mornings. And then our Player of the Week poll, which has been on the rise. It's been one of the hottest polls on Twitter. We'll actually post that today after the show. Last week, what
were the stats, Josh? You have them.
No, we're going to talk about that later on. No spoilers, because we have some.
We have a format, Rob.
Yes.
I know. I was just saying, our
the
Player of the
sheet.
Week, the votes.
People tune in.
Yeah.
For
the votes are crazy.
Format.
Yeah,
and
you know what?
It.
If you're on Twitter following us, you would already know that.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, Rob.
So if you're not,
I'm just telling
if you're
missing out, you need to get on there. Man.
ABC, baby, always be closing, right, Rob?
That's right.
If you're not on Twitter, make sure you follow us at SOT Podcast.
But now, do you know what? Let's go over to Josh Jeffy, who had those great words about our Twitter and where you can go. Now he has the Greater Cleveland Conference.
He'll have some mediocre words about the Greater Cleveland Conference.
Yeah, just like that, huh? Well, thanks for that segue. We're going to start Week 4 with the least competitive game that we had this week. Menor 73-0 over Elyria.
Wow.
Menor continues its undefeated season. They are 4-0 on the season. That's their first conference win. Elyria drops to 1-3. Again, this game was all Menor. It was 42-0 at the end of the first quarter, 52-0 at the half. And, of course, Menor was led by quarterback Ian Kipp. He had 3 touchdown passes early to this one. They were all to Luke Floria. And kind of a highlight note in this game, this was Coach Steve Trevisano's 200th career victory with the Menor Cardinals. Again, Menor with a 73-0 victory over Elyria. And a great game. Pitted 2 undefeated teams going into this game. Euclid comes out on top, though, 43-35 over Medina. Euclid overcame 18 penalties for 218 yards at this one, and at one point they had a 37-14 lead in this game. with 2 minutes and 42 seconds left in the game, Ryan Gillespie had a 29-yard TD run that actually pulled Medina to within 8 points. In this game, Gillespie was a quarterback now. He passed 22 of 59 for 377 yards and 2 touchdowns. Medina passed the ball 67 times in this game, so they're really run and shoot type of spread them out, go team for this one. Medina had 3 receivers all over 100 yards in this game, but Euclid, even with the penalties and even with the a lot of yards by Medina. They were led by Jabir Mujihad. He had 35 rushing attempts for 359 yards, 2 touchdowns in this game, as Euclid was able to stay on top and remain undefeated in this 2019 season. They are 4-0 on the season, 1-0 conference play. Medina suffers their first loss of the season. They dropped to 3-1. And they are 0-1 in the conference. Another good game that we had, Strongsville also remained undefeated in this one with a narrow 31-25 victory over Shaker Heights, who drops to 1-3, 0-1 in the conference. Now, Shaker jumped out to an early 14-0 victory in this lead. They had touchdowns from LaDon Graham and Adam Diaz. Then Strongsville came back. It was actually a 40-yard field goal by Carson. Shaker took the lead with a 25 at 25-23, the 40-yard field goal from Carson Fowler. And then on the ensuing kickoff after that, Garrett Clark had a 97-yard kickoff return for a touchdown, which ended up being the game winner. He also added 2 rushing touchdowns earlier in the game, as Strongsville once again remains undefeated on the year with a 31-25 victory over the Shaker Heights Red Raiders. Now, the game that Ed was talking about, he was there because, he's a coach for the team. Solon comes away with a 33-29 victory over Brunswick Blue Devils. Solon improves to 3-1. Brunswick drops to 3-1 on the season. As Ed mentioned, this was a highly contested matchup. A lot of hard hits in this one. Both teams exchanged touchdowns in the first quarter. In the second quarter, Solon scored 2 touchdowns and then went into half with a 19-14 lead in this one. Brunswick scored the only touchdown in the third quarter. It was a 1-yard run by quarterback Jake Charette. The 2-point conversion was good. That made the score 22-19 Brunswick. And then, once again, to start the fourth quarter, Brunswick scored on a Jacob Charette 7-yard touchdown run in this one. And then they kind of went back and forth from there. But with 8 seconds left in the game, Solon, from 8 yards out, Solon wide receiver Grant McCurry scored what would be the game-winning touchdown. He secured that touchdown reception in this one. Brunswick was led by Jake Charette, 20 carries, 81 yards, 3 touchdowns for Solon. Pat McQuaid, their quarterback, 23 of 32 for 209 yards, 3 touchdowns. And we already mentioned him, Grant McCurry, 10 receptions, 129 yards, including and 3 touchdowns, including the game winner in this one. Once again, Brunswick drops to 3-1. Solon improves to 3-1. The Coach of the Week nominee that I had was Jim McQuaid of Solon. For his big-time victory over Brunswick. And the player of the week, I'm going to go with another Solon player, wide receiver, Grant McCurry, 10 reception, 129 yards, 3 touchdowns, including that game winner. So he came up big in that spot. He's going to be my nominee for the GCC player of the week. Week 5, we have one big game, and that kind of holds true for at least 3 out of 4 here in the group. Ed, myself, and Rob. We'll talk about that in a minute. But Elyria will travel to Euclid. Solon will travel to Shaker. Medina will travel to Mentor. That's a big game for the Bees. Going to see how they're going to react after suffering their first conference loss. I think they're going to come out firing. And then the big game of the week, the big rivalry game, Strongsville at Brunswick. Again, we'll see how Brunswick responds to the tough loss that they suffered last week. Strongsville, struggled a little bit with Shaker Heights. So we'll see how they come out and play. They've had Brunswick's number the past couple years. And we know Coach Serino for Strongsville is looking to really take it to the rival. And Pinzoni, he's been in this rivalry for a long time, so he knows what it's about. And for his team, Brunswick, they're looking to continue to make those steps, to make those growths. You know, they suffered their first loss in the conference last week. Let's see how they respond this week. It's going to be a big matchup.
Yeah, you know, I think it's pretty telling for Brunswick. I really wanted to see how they'd compete against a Solon team that's always there, it seems like, in the end. And they competed. I mean, they had a chance to win the game at one point. You know, they were right there. But this team is definitely making the steps. This year I've seen a huge jump in just the game we went to, and it's not just because we went there. Versus North Royalton, they were very a well-oiled machine in that game, and I saw a lot of good things. Menor, I mean, Elyria has actually made some steps even this year to get better, and it just shows you.
Coach.
It shows you where Menor's at. I mean, they're just a very good team. I mean, you know, Medina suffers a loss, but they're having a very good year, up and down. Strongsville, Coach Sereno has done a great job getting those Mustangs back on track. They've been very good the last few years.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing that game between Medina and Menor. I mean, Medina has got that high-powered offense where they just throw the ball, and Menor has got the type of defense that can combat that, but they also have the type of offense that can really keep up with it. So I'm predicting that's going to be a very, very high-scoring game, and it's going to be a very entertaining game if you like long passes and a lot of touchdowns.
And Medina usually is a team that likes to run the football, too. They have kind of a balanced attack usually, but when you throw, what was it, 67?
67 times.
I mean, that's crazy.
It's interesting to me, you know, you talk about Medina and all the mistakes they made against Euclid, and Euclid being able to weather like you said, the fast-paced offense, but also able to take advantage. I mean, they let Medina shoot themselves in the foot. You don't get 18 penalties on accident. That's lack of focus. It's bad execution.
Well, yeah, and that's actually kind of I hate to say it, but that's kind of a Jeff Rotsky team. You know, they're a very aggressive team,
right.
and sometimes it leads to undisciplined plays, kind of like what we're seeing from our professional team here. In terms of the Browns, but
I mean, we don't need to talk about it.
No, we're not going to talk about it. I don't want to go on a tangent, but I tell you what, the GCC, now we're in conference play. We're going to see who separates and who doesn't, and we know one thing's for sure: these games are going to be competitive.
That's for sure. That's absolutely for sure, and there's going to be some really fun games to cover going forward, especially in the GCC and the GLC. To be honest with you, those are both conferences that are fantastic. Have really good competition in each one of those leagues. We're going to step away now for a break and come back. When we come back, Rob's going to break down the Southwestern Conference week number 4, or as we call it, week 3 in conference play for the Southwestern Conference. Then yours truly will also break down week 4 in the Suburban League for their first week of conference play. We'll be right back. See you on the other side.
Why do you exercise? To look better? To feel better? To drop a few pounds? To train for an event? To defy age? Or to keep your ability to say yes to the things you love to do? Whatever motivates you, G&G Fitness Equipment is here to get you there. Treadmills, ellipticals, rowers, bikes, home gyms, and accessories. We'll pair you with the right equipment, teach you how to use it, and be there every step of your fitness journey. G&G Fitness. Your goal is our goal.
Listen to our shows live on Mixer or join us the first Monday of every month at Z's Cream and Bean, located at 2706 Boston Road in Hinckley. Want to listen to past shows? Go to our YouTube page or website, www.sportsontappodcast.com.
SportsOnTapPodcast.com, the place to go where you can listen to past shows, read featured articles, check out all of our social media updates, plus much, much more. SportsOnTapPodcast.com, the official website of Sports on Tap.
No matter the season, it's always the right time for Z's Cream of Bean. Whether you want to warm up with some of their delicious soups, chilies, or coffees, or sample from their delicious selection of ice cream, shakes, and other cool treats, Z's Cream of Bean has you covered. Visit them at 2706 Boston Road in Hinckley, Ohio, and tell them the guys at Sports on Tap sent you.
RRT Productions, specializing in creating sports recruiting videos for all high school athletes. Want to play at the next level? Promote your talents with a video to send colleges. Affordable, experienced, and a high-quality video. Make us your local video production company. Visit our website, rrt-productions.com, and contact us today. RRT Productions, we shoot, we edit, you win.
For up-to-the-minute info on local high school sports action, including photos, videos, and live updates, be sure to follow Sports on Tap on Twitter, Instagram, and like us on Facebook.
Okay, you want to support a great local store that supports Cleveland and Ohio sports. GV Artwork and Design has the best stylish sports apparel, whether it's Cleveland sports, college gear, I've seen high school gear, your favorite sports teams, not just Cleveland, they have it all. Now, a special offer for Sports on Tap listeners. Use the code ONTAP10 and receive 10% off your full order. Go to gvartwork.com. That's gvartwork.com. GV Art and Design, original and one of a kind. And welcome back to Sports on Tap. It's our Ohio High School football coverage. Week 4 game recaps. I'm Rob Troutman.
Getting you feeling a little tropical because it's been really hot at these football games.
Man.
Especially the first day of fall, and he's playing summer music.
Well, you know, last week was what? It was almost 85, 90 degrees and
90
humid in
degrees
Hudson.
yesterday.
So, yeah.
It was 90
we'll
degrees
see.
yesterday.
This week it should be in the 70s. It should be beautiful for some Friday night football this week, and we'll tell you where we're going to be at this Friday coming up. But visit our website first off and foremost at sportsontappodcast.com. A lot of stuff to see there. We also, if you want to archive or go over and listen to all of our archived podcasts, we're on iTunes, YouTube. Most everything, though, is on our website, sportsontappodcast.com. We're at SOT Podcast on Twitter. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and our email. If you want to send us photos, if you want to send us information about your team statistics, sportsontappodcast@gmail.com. We've gotten some really awesome pictures that we had the chance to put on our website from a an Olmsted Falls mom who is on the sidelines taking pictures. And her name is Julie, and she sent them. So go check those out. She did a great job. There's some really fun pictures of the athletes kind of when they're celebrating and making some catches and tackles and all that. So it's kind of cool. So send them to our Gmail account, and we'll either get them on our website or talk to you about it and then put them on our website.
Not just pictures, statisticians
Yeah, that helps
out
for
there.
the show.
Guys, if you want to send us your stats, make sure we get them and read them on air. We will definitely do that at sotpodcast@gmail.com or post it on the website. We'll figure it out somehow, but that's how we get the most accurate information is from you guys, the statisticians.
Yep.
If you need to drop us a line, give us some stats so that we can sound like we're semi-educated when we're doing these recaps.
That's right.
Going forward. But Rob, what happened in Week 4 of the Southwestern Conference?
All right, Week 4 in the SWC started off with Berea Mid-Park traveling to Avon, and Avon dominated really from the get-go in this one as they jumped out to a big lead early. It was 21-0 after one quarter. Nick Parasek scored 3 touchdowns. He had 14 rushes for 117 yards, and that was only in the first half. So they would score 21 points in the first and second quarters, and during the third quarter they would only score one time. And that's when Berea Mid-Park would score once by sophomore Jack Arnold, who caught 6 passes for 49 yards and a touchdown. But this game was all Avon, as Avon wins big and stays undefeated at 4-0, 3-0 in conference with a 49-13 win. Berea Mid-Park falls to 0-4, 0-3 in conference. Westlake traveling to Avon Lake, and I know the Demons probably knew this one wasn't going to be easy, as Avon Lake, they're ranked 14th in Division II in the state rankings, and they showed exactly why. As Avon Lake's defense, they held Westlake to 62 total yards in that first half, and the first drive culminated into a 2-yard pitch and catch from Michael Corbo to senior Nathan Sidlowski, and the second touchdown came when Michael Corbo hit Matt Olstrom from 23 yards, and just like that, Avon Lake, they led 21-0 in the game, and in the third quarter, Avon Lake, they would score quick and put the game away. They weren't messing around in this game, and the first score came on Michael Corbo, a long touchdown run. Then running back Mason Wheeler, he wanted to get in the action too on a 35-yard touchdown run. It was 35-0, and there was still over 9 minutes to play in the third quarter. The Shoremen, their defense, you got to give them credit. They held Westlake to just 135 yards of total offense. Avon Lake now has won 3 in a row since that Week 1 loss versus Avon. They win big, 49-0. Mason Wheeler, he led the Shoremen with 85 rushing yards on just 7 carries, while Jeremy Santiago had 71 yards on a score he had 71 yards and a touchdown on 2 carries in this game. Michael Corbo rushed 3 times for 64 yards.
That's it?
Yeah.
After last week's 500-plus yard performance?
Well, he was tired, Josh.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, that was a
You
total
try running
yard,
500 yards and then.
But Avon Lake, they improved to 3-1, 2-1 in conference. As Westlake, they fall to 0-4 and 0-3. All right, moving on down the line is North Ridgeville. They traveled to Olmsted Falls, and the Bulldogs are always tough at home. And they scored early and wanted to probably set the mood here at Olmsted Fall Bulldog Park and not take anything for granted in this one, as they got ahead early in the first quarter. The Bulldogs, they only threw 4 times in this game, but ran the ball with 10 different running backs.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
They have 10 running backs?
They ran it with all kinds of different running backs. Everybody had a chance to run the ball here.
Never happened when I played high school ball.
Gotta have speed, my friend.
That's right.
I have lightning quick speed.
Well, he could have been the refrigerator.
I mean,
Michael
why
Dean
you gotta go
Parrott
there?
leading the way for Olmsted Falls was running back Alec Wall, who ran for 103 yards and 2 touchdowns. Other big contributors in this game scoring some touchdowns were Andrew Parkowski. He had 9 rushes, 84 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Devontae Boyd had 6 carries for 80 yards and 2 touchdowns. Charlie Seelick and Stephen Ellis also scored touchdowns as well in this game. The Bulldogs had 441 yards of total offense as North Ridgeville falls 56-27 in this game. Ridgeville now 0-4, 0-3 in conference as Olmsted Falls stays undefeated as they are now 4-0, 3-0 in conference play. Lakewood, the Rangers, the other Rangers, they took on the Midview Middies, and it was really a sloppy first half by both teams. 7 turnovers and 10 penalties in the first half, but Middies' Zach Gill, I'll tell you what, this kid made the most of his actions in this game. He hauled in 10 passes for 162 yards and 3 touchdowns. Gill also had a 1-yard touchdown run and intercepted a pass. Lakewood, they fumbled on the first play in this game, and the Middies would take advantage, and that led to a 7-0 count early on. Zach Gill, he picked off Rangers quarterback Albert Wilhelmy at the Lakewood 29-yard line, leading to a 6-yard slant from Surdock to Gill. Again, it was 16-3 with 38 seconds left in the half, but the Rangers wouldn't give up, and they answered 34 seconds later on a Pete Patsuris 18-yard touchdown grab. It was 16-10. The second half was a different story, though, for the Middies, who would score 4 times and go ahead and get a big win, 49-31. And the Lakewood Rangers, though, put up some points, 31 points on the Middies, so good job by Lakewood. And, they're really competing a little bit differently this year. They're 0-4, 0-3, but still putting up points, and you see the progress by the Rangers as Midview improves to 3-1, 2-1 in conference. And it was Ethan Surdock, the quarterback, the sophomore quarterback for Midview. He had 26 of 35 for 293 yards and 4 touchdowns. Amherst and North Olmsted, and this was going to be a really good game. Both teams up at the top in the Southwestern Conference, and junior quarterback Tyler Brzezina, he started off the scoring with a running back, Torrey Weatherspoon, in the end zone on a 9-yard pass. It was 7-0 late in the first quarter. Brzezina then would connect with senior wide receiver Alex Woods on an 11-yard touchdown strike. Amherst jumped out to a 14-0 lead in this game, and North Olmsted's defense, they did force a turnover and stop the offense, but the Eagles could not capitalize and score on those. And then late in the second quarter, senior wide receiver for the Eagles of North Olmsted, Samuel Roach, caught a 9-yard touchdown pass from junior quarterback Anthony Guercio, cutting the Comets' lead at 22-7 at halftime. Amherst would outscore North Olmsted in the second half 10-7 to stay undefeated in this game, as Amherst, the final score, 32-14. And this was a tough physical battle as Amherst gets a big win there as they stay undefeated. And Amherst improves to 4-0, 3-0 in conference as North Olmsted falls to 2-2, 2-1. Again, Amherst 32-14 winner. It was Amherst quarterback Tyler Brzezina when he went 13 of 22 for 182 yards and 4 touchdowns and 20 yards rushing also in the game. Now looking ahead to Week 5 in the Southwestern Conference, here's some of the matchups. We have Avon, still undefeated, takes on a one-loss Midview team as they travel to Midview. Avon Lake takes on North Ridgeville. North Olmsted takes on Lakewood. And Berea Mid-Park travels to Westlake. And a big game we'll get to a little bit later. If you didn't hear a few teams, you'll know why. But my Southwestern Conference Player of the Week is Middy's wide receiver Zach Gill. And he was an unbelievable wide receiver in this game. He had 10 passes for 162 yards, 3 touchdowns. He had also intercepted a pass in this game and really made an impact against a good Lakewood team this year. So congratulations to Midview wide receiver Zach Gill. You're the Southwestern Conference Player of the Week. So, guys, I think it's interesting when you look at some of the standings we'll go over really quickly before we get to Sean in the Suburban League. Amherst, we have 3 undefeated teams, Amherst, Avon, and Olmsted Falls, and 2 of those teams are going to play coming up this Friday, so one of those teams won't be undefeated anymore. The Shoreman and Midview, Avon Lake and Midview at 3-1 overall, as North Olmsted at 2-2, and then Berea Mid-Park, Lakewood, North Ridgeville, and Westlake all at 0-4. But the Shoremen have won 3 in a row now, and you look at Amherst, Avon, and Olmsted Falls all winning 4 in a row. Obviously, one of those teams won't be. After this Friday. So that's a Southwestern Conference right there for you.
As always, a bloodbath. Yeah. As always, a meat grinder. As always, teams are starting to position themselves for playoff runs and things like that in the Southwestern Conference. But again, we're getting into that time of year where seasons are defined over the next 3-4 weeks.
Yeah, I think you start seeing teams just separate, like the Amherst, Avon, and Olmsted Falls. They're 4-0.
Obviously, Avon, Avon's the team to beat now.
Yeah, Avon's always right there. So, Coach Heller does a great job getting those players ready, and they continue to win. Getting that Week 1 win over Avon Lake 13-12 was a big win for them, and they've been wrong. But Avon Lake, they had that loss, and they easily could have been like, oh, man, that's not good. But they come back.
They responded well.
Yeah, they responded. So now, without further ado.
Please, all the ado you need.
Let's go to Sean Duffy for the Suburban League, American and National Division.
Thank you, Rob. And it was the beginning of conference play in the Suburban League. We're going to start out in the National Division, and the Brecksville Broadview Heights Fighting Bees welcomed in Stowe, who was coming off a fantastic victory over Solon in Week 3. This one was a back-and-forth game. Brecksville quarterback Joe Labas finished the game with 246 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. 2 of those came through the air, 1 via the rush. Running back for Brecksville, Garrett Kibitz, 31 carries, 148 yards. He had 2 touchdowns. This game went into overtime because every time Stowe scored, and for Stowe, running back Xavier Preston had 2 touchdowns on the ground, as well as Owen Bainbridge chipped in with a passing touchdown. But this is pretty much how it went. Stowe would score, Brecksville would answer. Stowe would score, Brecksville would answer, all the way through overtime when Brecksville finally was able to slow down the Stowe offense and get a overtime win. Brecksville improves to 2-2, 1-0 in the National Division. Stowe falls to 3-1, 0-1 in the division.
Wow.
Brecksville will play Brecksville will go to Hudson in Week 5, whereas Stowe will travel to North Royalton. Speaking of the Bears of North Royalton, they welcomed in the Black Tigers of Cuyahoga Falls, and it was all Bears all night as they reach a 42-20 win. North Royalton improves to 3-1, and as I mentioned, they will host Stowe in Week 5. Cuyahoga Falls will host Twinsburg. They fall to 2-2. Nordonia versus Twinsburg. Nordonia had touchdowns on the ground from Sal Perrine, Marvoon Johnson, and Billy Levac, as well as Billy Levac as quarterback had a 69-yard touchdown pass to John Landers in this one as they cruise to a road victory 38-10 over the Twinsburg Tigers. Nordonia will host Wadsworth in Week 5. Twinsburg's only score came when the game was pretty much decided late in the fourth quarter. Twinsburg falls to 1-3, and Twinsburg, as I mentioned, will travel to Cuyahoga Falls. Wadsworth played Hudson in what was one of the best games we've seen since covering live games. We'll get to that during the Game of the Week breakdown. Now we move over to the American Division, and Copley was traveling in to face Kent Roosevelt, and Kent Roosevelt was up for the challenge as quarterback Christian Detweiler had 2 passing touchdowns and a rushing touchdown, and the Kent Roosevelt Rough Riders were able to punch 2 in on the ground as well. Copley quarterback Joe Rio had a passing touchdown, and Copley running back had a 80-yard punt return for a touchdown and a 2-yard 2-yard rushing touchdown. That was Mr. Taylor. He was able to jump in, but it just wasn't enough as Roosevelt holds off Copley 31-20. Roosevelt improves to 2-2 on the year. Copley falls to 1-3. Copley will play a non-conference game hosting Akron East. Roosevelt will travel to Highland. Speaking of Highland, they had a tall order coming into play at Highland Stadium against the Barberton Magics, and the Magics, we were on fire all night. Magic's quarterback Chase Haywood only threw the ball 12 times, connecting on 9 of those passes for 181 yards and 2 passing touchdowns. He also had a 31 yards rushing and 1 rushing touchdown. Guys, get this. 3 different running backs scored for the Magics. Caleb Vega, Cameron Macon, and Kenneth Hood all had rushing touchdowns. Highland just could not get out of their own way. It was pretty much Barberton's game from the opening whistle. They did see some scores from Bryce Profit to Jake Osborne for a 19-yard touchdown pass, and running back Brady Linder would score on a 10-yard touchdown run. But Barberton was able to roll Highland 49-17. Highland falls to 0-4 on the year. Barberton to 3-1. Barberton will host Revere in Week 2, and as I mentioned, Roosevelt will host Highland. Talmadge versus Revere, and this game was a back-and-forth battle all night, and it came down to one thing and one thing only, and my former compadre, my cohort, my associate, my man, my guy, my guy down the road. My man down the road. I was going to say my guy down the road, but that sounds weirder too. But it came down to a special teams play as Revere was able to outlast Talmadge. Basically, this came down to a blocked extra point kick as Nathan Klanowski for the Revere Minutemen had 2 touchdowns, one to Logan Weinert and one to Shane Slattery. Talmadge quarterback Drew Gross had 2 touchdowns as well, both of those to wide receiver Evan Teeling. But this, again, as I mentioned, came down to a blocked extra point, which allowed Revere to escape with a 17-16 victory. Revere improves to 3-1. Talmadge falls to 1-3 on the year. Talmadge will host Aurora. Revere will host Barberton. And speaking of Aurora, Aurora was our lone non-conference game in the Suburban League this week, and they had their hands full as they hosted Padua. Padua was up 13-0 at half, and the Green Men of Aurora needed 2 late touchdowns to secure a victory. One of those came as A.J. Barner recovered a fumble for a touchdown, and Anthony Graham ripped off a 55-yard touchdown run. Aurora 4-0 right now, and as they open their conference play, as I mentioned, against Talmadge, they will travel to Talmadge in Week 5. Coach of the Week got to go to Jeff Goff. We'll tell you why in our Game of the Week segment, because that's a fantastic breakdown. And my Player of the Week in the Suburban League is none other than Magic's quarterback, Chase Haywood of Barberton. Had a great game, 9-12, 181 yards, 2 touchdowns, 31 yards rushing, and 1 rushing touchdown. Guys, that's all it's fit to print for the Suburban League. I'm telling you right now, this is an interesting breakdown because Stowe losing to Brecksville at Brecksville, kind of an upset in the National Division, and Revere starting to find their footing a little bit in the American Division. Now, surprisingly, Kent Roosevelt's at 2-2 and 1-0 in the conference. It's going to be interesting to see how they respond in week 5.
Yeah, you know what? I think I was more surprised with Brecksville, and I think Brecksville is a really good team, but Stowe was on a little bit of a roll, and for a while I'm like, man, I don't know if they're going to be beat because they were playing at such a high level, and Brecksville comes in and surprises me a little bit there, but big-time win there for the Bees.
The Bees. No, I mean, it's a great win, and you wonder if, a lot of the research I did on Cleveland.com and Akron Beacon Journal and Medina Gazette really pointed to Stowe's coach did mention that maybe it was a little bit of a hangover effect from that big win over Solon. I mean, that's an emotional win. That's a huge win for your program. It's hard to maybe focus and turn the attention to a team like Brecksville who, they came in at 1-2, and maybe they didn't take them seriously enough. And this is what happens in the season. If you got to be focused, you got to understand that each team every Friday night's is a new opportunity for teams to win. Brecksville's put themselves in a really good position. Obviously we'll get to the Wadsworth-Hudson matchup. I think that went a long way to define the National Division. Right now, I think it's Barberton-Aurora for the American Division. I wouldn't count out Revere, kind of being a spoiler there. All the other teams, you kind of feel for Highland right now. They just cannot find a way to get a victory here. Hopefully they can turn things around as they will play maybe Kent Roosevelt next week. Maybe they can get on the winning side of things. Again, Kent Roosevelt's not an easy out either. So it's going to be interesting to see how these teams respond. But Revere obviously going out. Revere Copley has that non-conference game. Copley's 1-3, a little bit of a surprise there. But we'll see how it shakes out. But again, my player of the week is Chase Haywood. I mean, Barberton is just outside of that loss to
Stowe.
To Stowe.
Yeah, I think they lost at home to Stowe.
Yeah, they did. They lost at home to Stowe.
Which that's what I thought. Yeah. Stowe was on a little bit of a roll, and they continued to beat some really good teams. And Brecksville is a good team, though. There's no doubt about that.
Well, the good thing about, the positive I would say for Barberton is that loss doesn't hurt you as bad as a loss to say, in conference, especially to a team that can come up and snake bite you. I think this is coming down to Barberton-Aurora. I really do. I'd like to see Revere get in there, but I just think Revere kind of shoots themselves in the foot a little bit. But we'll see how it all shakes out. I'm excited for Week 5 in the Suburban League.
Well, nice job, Sean, with the Suburban League. And when we come back, I didn't even say my coach of the week, but it was Matt Kostelnik from Avon Lake, and we'll go over our coaches poll that had Jeff Goff of Hudson. It was Matt Kostelnik of Avon Lake, Jim McQuaid of Solon, and Greg Dennison of Buckeye. We'll tell you the final results of that. We'll tell you our player of the week, where you can vote. Go to sportsontap.podcast.com. Much more coming up with our game of the week and where we'll be at on Friday. All coming up. We are Sports on Tap. Now, listen to a few of our sponsors.
Why do you exercise? To look better? To feel better? To drop a few pounds? To train for an event? To defy age? Or to keep your ability to say yes to the things you love to do? Whatever motivates you, G&G Fitness Equipment is here to get you there. Treadmills, ellipticals, rowers, bikes, home gyms, and accessories. We'll pair you with the right equipment, teach you how to use it, and be there every step of your fitness journey. G&G Fitness. Your goal is our goal.
Listen to our shows live on Mixer or join us the first Monday of every month at Z's Cream and Bean, located at 2706 Boston Road in Hinckley. Want to listen to past shows? Go to our YouTube page or website, www.sportsontappodcast.com.
SportsOnTapPodcast.com, the place to go where you can listen to past shows, read featured articles, check out all of our social media updates, plus much, much more. SportsOnTapPodcast.com, the official website of Sports on Tap. No matter the season, it's always the right time for Z's Cream of Bean. Whether you want to warm up with some of their delicious soups, chilies, or coffees, or sample from their delicious selection of ice cream, shakes, and other cool treats, Z's Cream of Bean has you covered. Visit them at 2706 Boston Road in Hinckley, Ohio, and tell them the guys at Sports on Tap sent you.
RRT Productions, specializing in creating sports recruiting videos for all high school athletes. Want to play at the next level? Promote your talents with a video to send colleges. Affordable, experienced, and a high-quality video. Make us your local video production company. Visit our website, rrt-productions.com, and contact us today. RRT Productions, we shoot, we edit, you win.
For up-to-the-minute info on local high school sports action, including photos, videos, and live updates, be sure to follow Sports on Tap on Twitter, Instagram, and like us on Facebook.
Okay, you want to support a great local store that supports Cleveland and Ohio sports. GV Artwork and Design has the best stylish sports apparel, whether it's Cleveland sports, college gear, I've seen high school gear, your favorite sports teams, not just Cleveland, they have it all. Now, a special offer for Sports on Tap listeners. Use the code ONTAP10 and receive 10% off your full order. Go to gvartwork.com. That's gvartwork.com. GV Art and Design, original and one of a kind. Welcome back to Sports on Tap. I'm your host, Rob Traub, and it's our Ohio High School football coverage Week 4 game recap.
You know what I love about this show?
That it's tough to be on when you're muted.
But like we don't get this running like a well-oiled machine until about week 8, and then it's like 2 weeks of just solid programming, and then we go away and have to come back and relearn.
Nobody knows though.
Yeah, no one knows. But I mean, we just literally it takes us about 8 weeks to get it going, and then we're ready to rock and roll.
We're doing okay.
No
We're
big
doing
deal.
Just doing fine.
Totally fine. Totally fine.
Welcome
just
back.
don't let the board go off again.
That's right. We went through the Great Lakes Conference, their
Sure did.
Week 4 games, and how those ended up. The Greater Cleveland Conference, the Southwestern Conference, the Suburban League.
You know it.
And now we're going to tell you our G&G Fitness Coach of the Week poll that was really interesting. And also last week we had our Week 3 RRT Productions Player of the Week. And I have never seen votes and stats like this, but we had Drew Leitner from Hudson, Armando Nye from Buckeye, Michael Corbo from Avon Lake, and Luke Hensley from Medina.
I'm dying to know who won.
And, dude, there were over 1,000 votes in this. 1,002 votes.
1,002 votes. Thank you to all 1,002 of you. Well, 1,001.
Whoever voted,
so.
We appreciate you guys voting and supporting these high school athletes, because it is very impressive to see. And, they feel good. A lot of these guys, Luke Hensley, had a nice comment to us, and we want to thank him for sending over a nice message on Twitter. And he was the winner at 56% of the vote. Drew Leitner of Hudson was second with 31%. Armando Nye and Michael Corbo were right there as well.
And it was funny as we were watching these, this poll, because it's up on our site. It's pinned at the very top of our profile where you can vote. And for a while it was, Luke Hensley that was really out on top, 80% of the votes. And then you got to give props to the folks down in Medina, the fans of the Medina Bees football team. They really went out in droves and went onto our Twitter page and voted.
Would you say they swarmed to Twitter?
Yeah. Yeah, you could.
See what I did there? Bees swarm.
Yeah, but then the fans of Hudson, they started to explore our Twitter page.
Whoa!
And really started voting and brought Drew up a little bit. He finished second with 31% of the vote. So good for him. Good for Drew that he came up and really made it close. But we appreciate everyone voting. And as usual, that was our RT Productions Player of the Week poll. We also have our G&G Fitness Coach of the Week poll. And those results
are in.
Yeah, and they are.
But first, let's thank G&G Fitness, too. They support a lot of the coaches. And one thing they wanted to do was appreciate, the coaches. They all take time out of their schedule to really teach these athletes on and off the field. So they do a great job. Go to G&G Fitness. They're on Twitter at G&G Fitness EQ. And you go to livefit.com. Go to their website. You could vote for different coaches. It doesn't just have to be football. It could be of any sport. And they'll enter them into a raffle. But they have a lot of good stuff there. With G&G Fitness, and they have a lot of fitness equipment you can look at and all that. So we want to thank them for supporting our Coach of the Week. And we had Jeff Goff of Hudson after that.
I think we could just jump right into it.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry.
No, you're right.
List it.
No,
our
so
winner
we had Jeff Goff, Matt Kostelnik, Jim McQuaid of Solon, and Greg Dennison of Buckeye.
Yep.
So.
And the winner is...
And the winner of our Week 4 G&G Fitness Coach of the Week poll was Jeff Goff of Hudson.
Ooh, baby.
71%. There were 187 votes.
Yep.
And congratulations to Jeff Goff. We'll be going over our Game of the Week, which featured Wadsworth and Hudson. Obviously, with him getting the vote, you kind of know who won there. But what a heck of a game.
That was a
Wait
great
till
game.
you hear us give the game recap coming up.
I think we're ready. Is there anything left?
No. Just
let's get into it.
Let's get into the reason why Coach Goff won Coach of the Week.
Let's get into it. The Explorers, they're 1-2 coming into this game. The Grizzlies 2-1. They're back into Suburban League play here, and both these teams, they're looking to really get into it. But the Grizzlies defense, they were able to force a 35-yard field goal from junior kicker Jake Vidmar to start it off. It was 3-0 with 8:52 left. And Vidmar, this is a kid that looked like he can really kick a football.
He kicked the ball. He was very accurate from that distance, and he was very confident. I don't know kickers very well. I wish Ed was on the phone to tell us what it means.
Yeah,
but you could really tell he was very confident in his setup and in his approach, and put it right through the uprights.
Yeah, so then Wadsworth offense, Anthony Serino, a sophomore wide receiver for Wadsworth, had a 32-yard return, and that set up the Grizzlies in Hudson territory at the 45-yard line. And senior quarterback for Wadsworth, Trey Schaefer, would connect 3 plays later with junior wide receiver Barrett Labus for a 7-yard touchdown pass, and Wadsworth was up 7-3 with 6:10 remaining in the first quarter here.
Yeah, it was an impressive drive, but what really helped them out was that kickoff. Sereno just was able to, find a seam and get right over midfield. And, I mean, when you play in a short field like that with a team like Wadsworth, it didn't take them long to figure out, what they could do.
And that was it for the first quarter. It was 7-3.
Yeah.
So
low-scoring game.
Yeah, low-scoring game. It was kind of a defensive game. It went back and forth. But Hudson, they did open the second quarter with a 1-yard touchdown run by junior quarterback Jacob Paltani. And you would hear about him as Hudson now led 10-7 with 10:51 remaining in the half. But then, Wadsworth, they came back on the next possession and put a 69-yard drive together. It was capped off by a 31-yard touchdown pass from Schaefer to junior wide receiver Ethan Korecki. And Wadsworth, they then were on top 14-10 with 6:53 remaining in the half.
What was interesting about both that exchange you just went over, Rob, was, for the majority of the remainder of the first quarter, Hudson had the ball, and they were driving, and they were pounding the ball, and they were able to drain some of the clock off so that when the second quarter started, it was like 2 plays into the second quarter, they were in the end zone. And then for Wadsworth to just respond and go down and and it was very deliberate. They weren't doing things, they weren't doing gadget plays, they were just continuing to run the ball. They were continuing to kind of poke and prod and quick passes across the middle, and it was a very impressive drive to kind of right the ship and take that 14-10 lead.
And then Hudson, they would add another field goal as Vidmar, this time from 33 yards. Wadsworth, though, they still led 14-13 with 3:52 left in the half. And Hudson's defense, though, they were very impressive as they were able to force a quick 3-and-out from the Grizzlies, and they took over on the Wadsworth 49 late in the first half. And Hudson, they would score as time ran out on the half on a 1-yard touchdown run from quarterback Jacob Paltani. Hudson, they led going into half 20-14 as the first half came to a close.
That was really impressive by Hudson. They responded. They didn't get down when Wadsworth marched right down the field. They forced that field goal, another Vidmar field goal. And then, their defense stepped up. They figured some things out on Wadsworth's offense, forced that 3-and-out, and really good management of the clock, understanding the down and distance, understanding the time in the game for the half to get points on the board. I thought, it was a really interesting use of obviously their number one playmaker was Paltani. But also Drew Leitner was kind of gashing him a little bit on that drive as well. He was able to pop off some quick runs and things like that. In my notes I just said, Paltani was kind of the one. It almost felt like the Grizzlies defense was like focused when it came to the run. They were focused on Leitner. So when they were doing kind of an RPO or maybe a quick handoff, something like that, and Paltani would pull the ball down, they weren't spying the quarterback, or whoever was supposed to be spying the quarterback wasn't doing a great job on that, at least on that last drive, because Paltani and Drew Leitner kind of ripped off 2 runs. And then you also add in a couple of the receivers who doing good downfield blocking. It was an impressive drive to end the half and take a 20-14 lead going into halftime against a team that's been pretty good. And again, Hudson being the team that's kind of let leads slip away, kind of let the momentum kind of overtake them in the first couple games against big teams. This was another big test for the Hudson Explorers, and so far they answered the bell.
Yeah, and it was impressive, though, as Wadsworth, they got the ball to start the third quarter, and they put together a 70-yard drive in 6 minutes and 7 seconds came off that clock.
Yeah, I mean, that was really – you could tell that the Wadsworth coaching staff understood that they could control the pace of the game with their running game, and to drain almost half of the third quarter on one drive was really, really impressive, and to come away with points. A lot of times you see that where teams can, 4 yards in a cloud of dust and eat up that clock but only come away with a field goal. They were able to punch that in for a score and I believe take a 21-20 lead after the end of that drive, and then we go from there.
Yeah, as it was wide receiver Anthony Sereno would score on a 5-yard touchdown run. Wadsworth led 21-20 with 5:53 remaining in the quarter, and the next play, Hudson quarterback had the ball and they snapped it over his head. and it was recovered in the end zone. What a play by Jack Grice, the linebacker. He just pounced on it, which, usually you try to pick it up and then try to pounce. He just fell on it right in the end zone. It was a big score, 28-20 with 5:35 left in the third quarter. And you thought momentum might have been changing a little bit right there as back-to-back scores.
One thing we forgot to mention was Wadsworth was without their running back, Dom Laparo, who got injured late in the second quarter. And Anthony Serino, the sophomore, kind of played that. I'm sorry, Barrett Labus kind of stepped in and played that running back role, which allowed Anthony Serino to kind of get a lot more playing time as the primary wide receiver on a couple of sweeps and things like that. So, credit to Wadsworth there, able to kind of overcome some adversity, down a big part of their offense, and able to put together that drive. And then defensively, Jack Grice, who would come into play later in the game, but was also, on defense, that guy was everywhere. Yeah. He was really giving Hudson problems. He was making plays. He did a great job. But falls on the ball in the end zone, scores a touchdown. All of a sudden, Wadsworth's up 28-21. But what I noticed from the booth where I was sitting was I looked at the scoreboard and I'm like, okay, the two bad things happened, back-to-back touchdowns, but you're still it's still a one-score game for Hudson. And I think that's what the message from Coach Goff was, hey, guys, the worst thing just happened. We let them score 2 touchdowns quickly, but we're only down by a touchdown right now. Nothing's hurt. We got to go back and execute, and I think that's what they did.
Yeah, I was more impressed, too, with both these teams. If one got down, you can't count either one of these teams out because then Hudson, they started on their 30-yard line, but the Explorers, they put together a 70-yard scoring drive, and it was capped off by another 5-yard touchdown run by Peltani. And Wadsworth, they did lead 28-27 with 4:36 remaining, but a huge score by Hudson just to climb back again. Yep. The Wadsworth scores twice, and Hudson didn't really get down on themselves. They went down, put a nice drive together, and scored. But then the Grizzlies, they were deep again in Hudson territory, but the defense of Hudson this time stepped up and forced a turnover on downs as the third quarter came to a close with Wadsworth leading 28-27.
That was huge for Hudson. One to answer, like you said, and Peltani gets credit for the touchdown. But I also want to point out the offensive line was blocking well. Drew Leitner was able to rattle off some runs. They weren't flashy runs, but they were getting the job done runs. They were putting in the dirty work runs. They were moving chains, setting up nice plays for Peltani to move. And then the defensive effort. The bend don't break, because it was easily going into that shootout type thing where one team scores, the other team answers, back and forth. The Hudson Explorers got down, and I'm telling you, it was all on they were first. It was 4th and goal, I think, right, or 4th and.
Yeah.
4th and they were in the red zone for sure, and they just stopped them. They made a play, and that's exactly what Coach Goff was preaching on the sideline was make a play, and do the best. And you know what I'm saying, and do what they need to do. It was very, very interesting and very. It really rallied that crowd at Hudson to them, to the cause, because after that fumble recovery in the end zone, it got real quiet in Hudson at Hudson Stadium. But that kind of rejuvenated the crowd. Now we're going into the fourth quarter, and it's a 28-27 game at that point.
Yeah, and Hudson would answer on a 76-yard touchdown pass to Luke McLaughlin, who really, in stride, a perfect pass. He caught it. It was 34-28 Hudson. Wadsworth, again, they tried on 4th down and would not get it. And, it went back and forth. Wadsworth would find some magic late in the fourth quarter when Schaefer and Korecki, they would hook up again on a 46-yard touchdown throw and catch. The Grizzlies had a 35-34 lead with 3:03 left, and you knew this was going to be a fun ending.
Yeah, it had all the makeup. It had all the makings for a classic ending, and it started with Hudson getting really good field position. If I remember correctly, they were on the Wadsworth side of the field, and they were looking to drive. And what had happened was McLaughlin, I believe, caught the ball and tried to turn upfield, and the guy who scored it on the defense, Jack Grice, came up to tackle and punched the ball out, and the ball all along the sideline for whatever
tiptoed on the sideline,
for whatever
stayed in bounds
against all logic and physics. Stayed inbounds, recovered by Wadsworth, and everybody it really sucked the air out of the stadium. But to the credit of Hudson, again, they were able to right the ship. They had, I think, 2 or 3 timeouts left, and they were able to stop the clock. They were able to let Wadsworth, they were a couple big sacks that helped them out, that pushed them back, and forced Wadsworth to punt the ball. Again, with good field position. I mean, that Hudson at the end of the game won the field position battle. No matter what happens, you have to give credit to Hudson's defense, putting their offense in a position to win the game.
Yeah, and I thought it was a great job by Hudson. They stopped Wadsworth. Wadsworth had the ball with 1:20.
Yeah.
And all you do is get one first down, the game's
Yeah.
over. But they ran 3 times, and Hudson stopped them, so they had to punt. Hudson, though, would get really good field position and get it into Wadsworth territory. They would take the ball down to the 36-yard line. When it got a little crazy.
It did get a little crazy.
I was almost confused. I was in back of the field goal post waiting to see, all right, are they going to try for a field goal? What's going to go on? Either way, probably a Hail Mary is going to happen, something.
Let me break down what happened. And it's the one thing I didn't do in the one thing, guys.
One thing.
That I kind of kicked myself in because it was so hard for me to wrap my brain around what had happened. Leading up to the final moments of this game, there was an offsides penalty. They put Hudson in really makeable field goal position. Then, on the very next play, there was a false start penalty, which brought them back to where they were just a little bit on the far end of the range of the kicker. Then at one point, they ran the ball. They didn't get very far, or I believe it was a running play, and they go up to clock the ball. And there was some discussion, and I know we heard it, in the comment section that quarterback Peltani for Hudson may have fumbled the snap.
And then they recovered,
and
but that wasn't the case there.
From what I understand in the booth, from what I saw in the booth, it looked as though he got the ball and just spiked it, but he kind of fell on top of it too, so maybe had the idea of a fumble. I don't know. But there is some discussion, and there is some comments from the Wadsworth side that said if it was a fumbled snap, the clock should have ran, and it would have ran out of time. In this case, it didn't happen. The referees viewed it as a clock play and stopped the clock with, I think
he actually spiked. I thought he spiked the ball to stop the clock.
He did, but what happened was
But it was tough to tell
because there was as I mentioned, Rob, there was a kind of an interpretation that he may have. When he spiked the ball, or when he attempted to spike the ball, he didn't have control of the ball, so it looked like he fumbled it. And in that case, the clock should have ran. It was a judgment call, and unfortunately, it's high school football. It's not the NFL. We don't have instant replay. We can't go back. We can't challenge it. So the referee's call was it was a spiked ball. Stop the clock. So now comes Hudson. I mean, this is Hollywood stuff out here. 46-yard field goal attempt.
And I didn't even realize that Jake Vidmar, their normal kicker, he's kicked beautifully the whole night. And all of a sudden they took him out and put Caleb Junko in.
Yes, and I was sitting there, and we were up in the booth. We're like, this is 46 yards. For the longest time, I thought it was 36 yards, but then I forgot to add on the additional yardage. So it turned out to be a 46-yard field goal attempt for the win. And Rob, take it away because you had bird's eye view. I was up in the booth. I couldn't tell if it was good or not good.
Yeah, he absolutely drilled it.
Yeah.
I mean, and he had room from probably 50 to 55 yards.
It was a great
through
kick.
The uprights, and time expired.
The
Hudson Explorers, the crowd rushed the field. It was absolute pandemonium as the Hudson Explorers escaped with a 37-35 win on a 46-yard field goal by senior kicker Caleb Junko, who kicked it right through the uprights. He had enough distance on that, honestly, from 50 to 55.
It was a fantastic kick. My hat's off to that kid. That kid, I mean, talk about pressure. I mean, not just the situation, but the distance. I mean, you're a high school kid with 46-yard field goal. I mean, how many coaches out there have a kicker they feel confident sending him out there for 36 yards? You see what I'm saying? And especially in this day and age, for him to go out there and nail a 46-yard kick to win the game against a team like Wadsworth,
no pressure, that's
none
for sure.
whatsoever.
Jeez.
I mean, if you talk to him after the game, or we heard some comments after the game, and he said he knew it was good as soon as he kicked it. That's the kind of confidence you want in a kicker.
I mean, to come off the bench and kick like that was impressive.
It was
Wadsworth, you hate to see any team lose in a game like that. It went back and forth. Each team deserved to win, there's no doubt. But Wadsworth falls to 2-2 on the season, 0-1 in Suburban League. As the Hudson improves now to 2-2, and they're 1-0 in conference, and look to continue the winning streak in Week 5 as they host a very tough Brecksville Broadview Heights team.
Coming off a big win.
And Sean, the player of the game who you picked in your article is senior kicker Caleb Junko with a 46-yard field goal.
I actually spent a lot of time in the booth kind of going back and forth. Do I talk about Jacob Peltani, who, guys, I don't want to downplay his performance. He was every bit the leader of that offense. He was the calming force for Hudson. He did a fantastic job. So many touchdowns, did a great job. But here's the thing. You know what? If a kicker in high school goes out there and nails a 46-yard field goal to win the game, as time expires, you're getting player of the game, boys. That's going to happen.
Yeah, he deserved it.
That's day one stuff.
That's crazy.
Player of the game. Congratulations, Caleb. Congratulations, Hudson.
Yeah.
Jeff Goff was fired up on the sidelines.
He
was fired up. He was fantastic in the interview that Rob did that's attached to the article. You could tell he was pumped for his kids, pumped for Caleb for a huge kick, and just with the hard adversity they've had early in the season, that's a galvanizing win for that team.
Yeah, and we've talked to him, before. He was very excited.
Big fan.
He listens to our show. He loved it. And we had a chance to talk to him after the game, and you could tell in the interview he was a little bit excited.
He was pumped up
with this Wadsworth team tonight.
Yeah, it's a fantastic program. It's one of the best in Northeast Ohio. We told our kids, focus about ourselves, what we can control. Our motto this year is sacrifice for success. So everything we do, we talk about what are you sacrificing for this team? Can you surrender your ego, your playing time, your body to this team, to the betterment of this team? And I think you saw it tonight. So many guys made different plays, guys we haven't seen on the stat sheets. We've been running the ball like 70, 80% of the time, and all of a sudden, to see our backup quarterback come in for one play and make a 60, 70-yard throw. Just the idea that, hey, if you commit to it and you're ready to go when your opportunity comes, it's going to be a lot of fun. I love this for the kids. It's the first big win we've had, in a couple games, being 3-7 last year. But hey, winning 2 in a row against a great program with a walk-off field goal, you can't write a better script than that.
Absolutely,
you cannot.
Absolutely perfect. He said it.
He was pumped.
Everything we wanted to. He was holding his daughter. Go check out on SportsOnTapPodcast.com the write-up. There's video there that show highlights from this game.
Great. Rob did a fantastic job catching all the scoring plays.
It's tough. I was really going nuts.
And here's the thing: they would just lull, and then bang, and then
it's one after another, and dude, it keeps you on your toes.
They got crazy.
But it's always great to talk to him, and he was very excited, and like I said, he had nothing but respect for Wadsworth, as he did a great job. And Jeff Goff, our G&G Fitness Coach of the Week, and had a chance to talk to him.
Big thank you to Hudson Athletic Department for welcoming us out there. And we weren't the only ones watching that. They had TV. They had their own TV. They had Spectrum there. It was a big game all around, and they were treated to a fantastic game. Rob, do you think we can follow this up next week? Do you think we can follow it up this week?
Wow,
we got to pick the game. We got to tell the folks where you and I and Josh are going to be Friday night. Where are we going to be?
I'll tell you what, it's going to be tough.
Where are we going, boys?
It's going to be tough to duplicate that, but we're going to go out to Amherst High School.
You're telling me we're doing Southwestern Conference, undefeated versus undefeated?
Somebody's got to come down in that game.
Oh,
Are there
man.
ties? Are there ties? That's the question. But it's going to be the Olmsted Falls Bulldogs, 4-0, 3-0 in conference, against the undefeated Amherst Comets, 4-0, 3-0 in conference. One team is going to have a loss after this one, guys, and then we'll see what Avon can do against Midview. That's a big game as well. So we'll see what happens. This upcoming week could be pretty telling. Can Midview knock off Avon, and all of a sudden there's only one unbeaten in the Southwestern Conference? We'll wait and see. Friday night. No comment.
But make sure to follow us on Twitter at SOT Podcast.
That's right.
Make sure you tweet at us using the hashtag SOTHSF. Follow make sure you go to our website, sportsontappodcast.com. We're on YouTube. We're on iTunes. We're wherever you find podcasts. We're there.
Send us stats or game summaries to sportsontappodcast@gmail.com, and that way we can have accurate stats. If you want, put pronunciations on there also for kids' names. That's also helpful.
That's for Rob.
Photos. Yeah, exactly. For photos, if you want to put some photos on our website from games you're at, send us to sportsontappodcast@gmail.com. We have a lot of great things going on. I want to thank everyone for their help giving us accurate stats and all that, and also photos. Julie with a nice job from Olmsted Falls posting those photos on our website, so thank you for that.
Make sure you head over to Twitter right now. Our poll is up for our Week 4 Player of the Week, featuring players from Buckeye, Solon, Midview, and Barberton. So go head over to our Twitter page and cast your vote.
At SOT Podcast.
Let's pick it up. 1,000 votes last week. Let's make it 2,000 this week.
That's
absolutely crazy, but I love every minute of it. Give these players the recognition they deserve. So I want to thank everyone for listening. Again, go back and play this on our website and on YouTube if you want to go back and listen to this podcast. For Sean Duffy, Ed Dick, Josh Jeffy, I'm Rob Troutman saying so long for Sports on Tap. We'll see you on Friday night in Amherst.
Game on!
See ya. Thanks for listening to Sports on Tap. Make sure you visit our website, www.sportsontappodcast.com. We would also like to thank our partners, Greater Cleveland High School Hockey League, home of the Barron Cup. Z's Cream and Bean, make life sweet, eat ice cream at Z's. RRT Productions, we shoot, we edit, you win, specializing in sports recruiting videos for all high school athletes. And GV Artwork and Design, original and one of a kind. Thanks for listening to Sports on Tap. Make sure you visit our website, www.sportsontappodcast.com. We would also like to thank our partners, Greater Cleveland High School Hockey League, home of the Barron Cup. Z's Cream and Bean, make life sweet, eat ice cream at Z's. RRT Productions, we shoot, we edit, you win, specializing in sports recruiting videos for all high school athletes. And GV Artwork and Design, original and one of a kind.